Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and this is the Hour of the Raven, your channel for everything Ravenloft, RPG, Dungeons and Dragons and horror. Today, we will explore the secrets of Baron Urik Von Kharkov, the tyrant and brutal Darklord of the lands of Valachan. Are you ready? Then let's enter Castle Pantara, escorted by the guard known as the Black Leopards, and finally meet the illustrious Baron Urik Von Kharkov, who cordially await us for dinner. Hour of the Raven. Oh, my illustrious guests, welcome to Castle Pantara. I hope my home meets your expectations, and you can share with me your culture and knowledge of distant lands, as it's not frequent that I receive foreigners in my halls. Dinner will soon be served, as I'm sure that you, like me, must be as hungry as a panther. Baron Urik Von Kharkov is the Darklord of Valachan. Although he currently presents himself as Urik von Kharkov II, the son and descendant of the first Baron Kharkov, both are the same person, and this is just another device and mask to hide his true nature. Baron Kharkov was a panther who was magically transformed into a human. As a human, the Baron was later turned into a vampire of the Nosferatu strain. Thus, despite his mask and the facade of a noble baron, he hides his double bestial nature, that of a big cat and a blood-drinking undead predator. Baron von Kharkov is a tall man with broad shoulders, black skin, and a deep baritone voice. The Baron has an exotic beauty and a great personal magnetism. He wears short, well-groomed hair, dresses elegantly, and always wears a pair of black leather gloves over his hands. These gloves hide a bestial aspect of his appearance, since his hands are covered with dark fur and have retractable claws. He has disturbing golden-colored eyes, whose irises become vertical and elongated, like a feline's when he is infuriated. The Baron was a panther, a man, and now it's a vampire, and he bears traces of all these aspects. He has a feline quick temper and taunting cruelty, a human intelligence and ambition, and a vampire's charm and bloodthirstiness. He usually behaves like a gentleman in a very polite manner, hiding the bestial aspects of his nature. Kharkov has a cursed existence and craves the humanity he never had, since he was born a panther, magically transformed into a human, and then turned into a vampire, a blood-drinking monster. Despite his manners, however, the Baron's social mask eventually will fall, revealing his true evil and bestial nature. The Baron is a dangerous opponent. In addition to being an undead creature of great power, Kharkov is a skilled warrior and has experience in the use of swords and bows. Despite having magical weapons at his disposal, when his true bestial nature is revealed, he fights his enemies with his bare hands with retractable claws to tear his enemy apart. As a Nosferatu vampire, the Baron is immune to injury from ordinary weapons and possesses extraordinary strength. He can enter any location in Valachan, even if he is not invited, since the entire domain is considered his territory. He is capable of taking a vaporous form, as well as a bestial animal form. However, whenever he tries to assume an animal form, the Baron always becomes a gigantic panther, not being able to become a wolf or a bear as other vampires. In this form of a panther, the Baron is able to transmit lycanthropy with his bite, and those who are infected become were-panthers under his influence. Through this tactic, he has infected his soldiers to form the Black Leopards, a group of lycanthrope soldiers loyal to his command. The vampire has a powerful gaze that can charm and dominate its victims. As a Nosferatu vampire, Baron Kharkov also drains his victims' constitution while feeding on their blood. Those who are drained by Kharkov's bite lose their consciousness and recent memory and do not remember these events. He is able to telepathically dominate people who have already been bitten by him, who remain under his influence until they receive a remove curse spell cast by a powerful cleric. A considerable part of the population of Valachan has already been a victim of the shallow feeding imposed by Baron Kharkov, making them a potential victim of his telepathic mental domination, serving as a network of informants and servants at his disposal. The Baron can summon and control panthers to serve him, and he is able to transfer his consciousness to the body of any feline in his domain. While he transfers his mind to a feline, his body remains inert, and he takes command of the feline's body, being able to see, hear, and act through the animal. Kharkov can be paralyzed if a bone stake is pierced through his heart, but he will only be truly destroyed if, after being pierced by the stake, he is beheaded and his mouth is filled with sacred wafers or sacred symbols. The Baron is also vulnerable to the artifact known as the Cat of Velkovic. This small statuette was created with the intention of destroying the Baron, and with the right command, it will transform into a saber-toothed tiger whose attacks can easily tear the Darklord apart. The Baron has a supernatural regeneration capacity, and if exposed to moonlight, he may even recover from the final death, regenerating severed limbs that are attached back to his body. As Darklord of Valachan, he is able to close the borders of his domain when he so wishes. Those who are trying to escape his lands will become confused and lost, and no matter how hard they try, they will always return again to the interior of Valachan. But what turned a panther into a man and a man into an undead monstrosity? What secrets are hidden in the past of the Darklord of Valachan? Baron Urik Von Kharkov started his life as a panther in the distant world of Toril. The panther was captured and acquired by a red wizard of Tay, and served as an experiment and weapon of revenge. The red wizard Morpheus had fallen in love with Selena, but had been rejected in his advances. He then devised an elaborate plan of revenge. He magically transformed the panther he had acquired into a man, and the creature did not retain his memories of his previous existence as a beast. Morpheus created a false identity for the transmuted panther, naming him Urik Von Kharkov, a baron from distant lands. Urik was sent to the lands of Komir to be educated as a noble, and after his education was completed, he finally returned to Tay. Morpheus ensured that Urik had a pristine education, giving the panther knowledge, politeness, and resources, and manipulated events so that Urik and Selena's paths crossed in Tay. As expected by the vengeful wizard, Selena and Urik became romantically involved. Urik's affection for Selena was true, and she was his first love. When they finally slept together, Morpheus carried out his macabre plan, undoing the effects of his magic, and causing Urik to transform into a wild panther. The beast lacerated and devoured Selena, giving in to his primitive instincts. Morpheus got his revenge, recaptured Urik as a panther, and transformed him back into his human form. The wizard believed that Urik would remember nothing of his transformation, but Kharkov remembered every detail of the gruesome murder of his loved one while transformed into a panther. The Red Wizard intended to keep Urik as a surprise weapon for his enemies, but Kharkov remembered with horror his transformation into a panther by the arcane. He believed in his false identity as Baron Urik Von Kharkov, and thought that he had been temporarily transformed into a panther by the wizard. In horror, because of the murder of his only love, he fled from the wizard, enraged, humiliated, and heartbroken. In his escape, the mist surrounded him, and he emerged in the demi-plane of dread in the lands of Darkhold. Urik tried to establish a new life in this land, and swore that he would never be a plaything in the hands of others. While wandering through Darkhold, he heard rumors of a drunken bard about the Kargat, the secret police of King ADELINE, and that its high ranks kept the secrets of great powers and immortality. Deluded by these promises of power and eternal life, he joined the Kargat and was soon introduced to Darkovny, a Nosferatu vampire who turned him into one of his vampiric offsprings. As a vampire, Urik Kharkov gained power and immortality, but discovered that he was a slave to the will of his vampire master. He was forced to serve his new master, being corrupted by his new vampiric nature and his cruel acts. He gained fame among the undead for his cruelty and brutality. Kharkov found that, unlike his peers, he could not take the form of a wolf or a bat, but rather an enormous panther, a fact that brought back sad memories of Selena's brutal death. After 2 decades of servitude, his vampire master ended up being destroyed in a clash against other vampires, rivals within the Kargat organization. Finally free of his master's will, he fled Darkhold toward the misty border to avoid becoming a servant once more. Von Kharkov wandered through the mists until he emerged into a dense jungle. He wandered in search of a destination until he found MALIKA, a woman from the distant lands of Comir who have been swallowed by the mists. She had a great resemblance to Selena, his first love. She was cordial to Kharkov, and they looked together for a way out of the jungle, but Kharkov ended up yielding to his bestial side, and transforming himself into a panther, he murdered MALIKA to drink her blood. Kharkov carried guilt for his action, for having murdered an innocent woman again. However, the mists have not finished toying with their victim, and brought another person to that dense jungle, the Red Wizard Morpheus. Upon meeting Morpheus, Kharkov finally discovered that he had never been a human, and that he was originally a panther, a wild and savage beast. Astonished at the revelation that his identity and persona as Baron Urik Von Kharkov was a farce and lie, he gave himself to intense hatred and felt his bestial instincts arise. Accepting his bestial inheritance, he quit to fight his primal instincts and transformed again into a panther to murder Morpheus. He surrendered to his dark side, hatred and revenge, finally sealed his fate, and he escaped from the jungle to emerge in Valachan as its new Darklord. If Valachan history can be trusted, Urik Von Kharkov arrived in the city of Rothwald, where he quickly began to instigate dissent against the government of Henrik von Ostrin, the ruling despot of Valachan. His action did not go unnoticed, and soldiers assaulted and imprisoned Urik, taking him in chains to see Henrik, who used it to torture, interrogate, and personally kill rebels and dissidents. Urik did not oppose the chains, and was taken to Henrik. There, he looked Henrik in the eye, saying that he would pay for his crimes, and breaking free of his chain, jumped on Henrik, breaking his neck with his bare hands. He then declared himself the ruler of Valachan, taking the position of power, and using once more his title of Baron. Valachan is a domain that in many ways reflects the conflicting nature of Urik. The lands are largely wild and untamed, reflecting his bestial nature. The forests are full of panthers, and the domain is known for the presence of were-panthers. The kingdom has a history of brutality and violence, full of legends of monstrosity and hauntings, which also reflect violent aspects of the Baron's own monstrous personality. After coming to power, the Baron quickly consolidated his position. Using his ability to transmit lycanthropy with the bite of his panther form, he created a troop of loyal were-panther soldiers at his service, the Black Leopards. He also made a political gesture to the three largest cities, creating a council, but did not share real power with them. In order to support the cost of his government, heavy taxes and fees were created, and he also determined that each city should annually assign a group of workers to finish the construction started by his predecessor, a peculiar castle in the middle of the forest, named Castle Pantara. Although the construction has been completed for many years, to this day the levy of workers is demanded to maintain the castle and work on its adjacent lands. Urik Kharkov's path came to cross with Lady Adeline, an elf of the rare vampire strain that affects this race, who walks in the daylight and hides from the darkness of the night. They formed an alliance of interests, and Lady Adeline became Urik's right hand, head of tax collection, and commander of the Black Leopards during daytime. To ensure Valachan's loyalty and unity, he placed his own vampiric offspring in strategic positions of government, and instituted the shallow feeding for the Nosferatu, ensuring that the large part of the population was under his mental influence. When even after such efforts some rebellion occurred, his mask of cordiality fell, and he revealed his true bestial and tyrannical nature to suppress these rebellions. Despite becoming the absolute ruler of Valachan, Urik von Kharkov never got over Selina's loss. He longs for the humanity he never had, and tries to fight his animalistic instincts. Believing that he could find some solace in the company of a wife, he established an annual lottery in which each year one of the cities is chosen to host a lottery in which all unmarried women participate. The women selected by this mechanism have the dubious honor of becoming wives of the Baron, a situation that is imposed even against their will. Kharkov tries to bond with these women, maintaining his charm and chivalry, but eventually his social mask begins to crack, and he becomes paranoid and violent. It does not take long for all of his wives to meet a violent end, and year after year it is declared that the Baroness had passed away to the disease known as the White Fever, and that a new lottery will be held. Perhaps the worst threat to the Baron's existence came from his sickening search for a wife and companion. Against the rules of his own lottery, Urik became interested in Nadia, the beautiful wife of Felkovik, a reclusive wizard who lived in a tower in the city of Helbenik. Felkovik discovered the Baron's plans and tried to find a way to destroy the powerful vampire. He created a powerful artifact, the Cat of Felkovik, a figurine that housed the essence of several felines. At the command of a magic word, the statuette will become a powerful saber-toothed tiger, capable of tearing Baron Urik von Kharkov apart. Even if the magical word was not said, as long as someone claimed ownership of the statue, it would transform night after night into a bigger cat, until it reached its final form. Before Felkovik could use the statuette, the Baron visited the wizard and cast his domination gaze on him. He invited Felkovik to Castle Pantara, where he delivered him to the panthers to be devoured. Felkovik's wife has been transformed into a vampire and now roams Valachan in Urik's service. The Cat of Felkovik remained with his corpse, and his spirit began to haunt the figurine. The Baron himself found the statuette in the vicinity of the castle, and placed it as a decoration piece of his castle. 7 nights after finding the piece, he was surprised by the attack of a huge feline beast that roamed his castle, a creature that he could not control and caused him serious injuries. The Baron escaped this confrontation, and his soldiers chased away the saber-toothed tiger, and the statuette was lost in the woods. Eventually, it was found by a group of adventurers who, influenced by the ghost of Velkovic, confronted the Baron using the power of the statuette. Despite surviving this new attack and prevailing over the adventurers, Urik was seriously injured, and it took time to regenerate after this confrontation. The Baron used this event to change his social mask. After acting as the ruler of these lands for almost 5 decades without aging, it had become almost impossible to maintain his facade of humanity. The attack was used as an excuse to justify his death, and the Baron assumed the throne in sequence under the name of Baron Urik Von Kharkov II, allegedly a reclusive son of the first Baron. Suspicions about the identity of the heir to the throne were deterred by brutal repression by the Baron and his soldiers. To this day, Urik used his son's persona, Urik II, to rule. Many claim that after the first encounter with the cat of Velkovic, his government became more brutal and tyrannical. The cat of Velkovic remains lost in Valachan, and in recent years, numerous rebellions have challenged the Baron's despotic acts against his heavy taxes, the assignment of workers, and his annual bride lottery. All rebellions and insurgencies were severely repressed, and the insurgents were exemplarily punished. However, around 740 of the Barovian calendar, during the troubled period of the Grand Conjunction, a group of rebels effectively tried to assassinate the Baron and managed to severely wound Kharkov. If the reports are correct, Valachan suffered earthquakes when Urik was injured, and the mist rose in all the realm. Urik, however, won one more battle, and when the mist receded, Valachan was displaced by the mists to the southwest of the continent. Most of these insurgencies have come from the city of Rothwald, and the Baron suspects that some supernatural influence is weakening his mental control over the population. Despite exhibiting a polite behavior of a gentleman, we can see a sadistic gleam in the yellow eyes of the Baron, and we wonder what is his intention in revealing to us so many secrets of his past. We realize with horror that the Baron did not intend to let us out of his castle, and is just having fun at our expense, like a cruel cat that teases its prey before devouring it. When he gets up and walks toward us, showing his fangs and removing the gloves of his clawed hands, we remember the small statuette that we carried with us, the cat of Velkovic, and in despair, we speak the magic word that transforms it into a huge saber-toothed tiger. While the Baron is attacked by the creature and calls for the help of his guards, we take advantage of the chaos to escape Castle Pantara and flee through the woods to the quickest route away from Valachan. Without awaiting to know the winner of the confrontation, we ran for our lives until we crossed the frontier to Verbrak, the dangerous lands of werewolves. Join us, subscribe to this channel, and activate notifications, and let us explore the inhospitable and wild land of the wolves.